What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Young Guns. I'm Will, and I'm along with my partner in crime, Jackson, and I'm here with Talk-IS-PITT to preview the Sun Bowl between Pitt and UCLA. How's it going, man? How's your holiday season?
Well, it's going pretty good, cold, like we discussed before this all started, and still cold.
hmm So it's been a bit of an up and down year for the Panthers, but of course it started off with the big win over the rival West Virginia in the backyard brawl. How optimistic were Pitt fans after that game?
I would say I probably was the most concerned I have been in a long time. Um, because that game right there, the way West Virginia was able to run all over our defense, which is something not even the best of teams in the ACC could do. And they were able to do it. That concerned me severely. Now, it got better over the season, but that game right there, I was concerned that we would even make a bowl.
Okay. So then you guys almost beat a Tennessee team, and we didn't know how good this Tennessee team was going to do on the year. But do you think if you guys would have beaten Hendon Hooker in Tennessee, do you think that could have catapulted Pitt on to to win the ACC again, or do you think that game really tore the team down a bit, like their confidence level?
I wouldn't say it was that game that brought the confidence level down because you have to take into a couple factors. One, we were already riddled with injuries before we even got into that game. And it got even worse throughout the game. Keaton Slovis, Jared Wayne, Nick Patty, our backup quarterback, ended up severely spraining his ankle. And we still were able to force them into overtime. Tennessee, as of right now, is way more talented than us and should have, by all means, clobbered us. They should have, but they didn't, and I'm proud of Pitt for that. That's not a loss to me that I think that broke the confidence or destroyed all hopes of repeating as ACC champions. To me, that would be the Georgia Tech game.
What happened in that game?
We were down 11 starters, so we didn't have Jared Wayne. We ended up losing Izzy Abanikanda halfway through the game. We were down 3 offensive linemen, 3 defensive linemen, 2 DBs, and 2 linebackers. So Georgia Tech took advantage of whatever they could take advantage. And it didn't help, though, that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it would rain, then it would stop, then it would rain again, then it would stop, then it would rain again. So I guess finally the rain gods decided to screw us this time, and instead of helping us like they have done with North Carolina every time we've beaten them, because it's torrentially downpoured the last 2 times we've beaten North Carolina, and that's helped us.
Mm-hmm.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, where would you put the 2022 Pittsburgh Panthers season? Where would you rate that this year?
I don't think I could go from a scale of 1 to 10. It'd have to be a A, C, B, D, alphabetical thing.
Well, in that case, what would you grade the season?
B minus.
B minus, how come?
Well, because clearly there was a lot that went wrong, and we're not even going to talk about the injuries because that happens to everybody. It's not just a Pitt thing. But there's 3 things that really or four, I should say, that really hindered us. The biggest one is quarterback play. I don't like Keaton Slovis. I don't. I stuck up for him in the beginning of the season because, you know, it's a new offense, new town, new city, all that stuff. And, you know, I wanted to give him a fair shot. But I learned rather quickly that he was just not the right quarterback for our offense. He's not mobile at all. He's more mobile than others I have seen at quarterback that we have had, like Davis Bevel. But that Keaton Slovis not making the right read. So all in all, quarterback play to me was the biggest problem. The second biggest problem was offensive line play. That was horrendous. I have never seen our offensive line, even last year, be so horrible at pass blocking, which was something we did very well last year. We returned all 5 starting offensive linemen, so that concerned me that we couldn't pass block worth crap. And also, when it comes to pass blocking, the third thing that concerned me was how many drops our receivers had.
Ooh.
A lot, which honestly is a good chunk of what made Keaton Slovis look bad, is our receivers dropping a lot of passes. And people and Pitt fans will say, well, no, that's just not it. Our receivers can catch. No, they can't. We lead the nation in drop passes. How are you going to sit there and tell me that our receivers can catch? We have one very good receiver, and I mean one very good receiver in Jared Lane. Other than that, who do we got? We don't got nobody. So that concerned me. And the biggest thing that concerned me was the fact that we have this bend but don't break mentality on the defense, to where we'll give up big plays, but we'll try not to let the opponent score touchdowns and hold them to field goals. Well, how many times this year did we get beat by field goals? 5. 5 games we lost because of field goals. We need to stop with this bend but don't break mentality and completely destroy you. You know, have that type of mentality that we're not going to bend, we're not going to break, we're not going to give you these easy plays. If you're going to get these plays, you're going to earn them. So, and to me, that gives Pitt a B-, because even with all that, for the 4th time in history, in Pitt history, we have produced a 1,000-yard receiver and running back in the same season. We've only done that 4 times in the 120 years of the University of Pittsburgh. So if that did not happen, we would be probably getting a C- to a D, because I don't think Frank Cignetti at all was the problem with our offense. I don't. People say he's predictable, but look, it's the only thing that worked, isn't it? What else were we supposed to do? We don't have anybody who can catch. Izzy Abanikanda had no choice but to do what he did. And thank God for Izzy Abanikanda being as big as he is and extremely difficult to take down. But yeah, that's my grade for Pitt.
What are your thoughts on Pat Narduzzi as a coach? Do you think he's the right guy to lead Pitt? I know the winding's a problem, but like just as a coach, do you think he's leading Pitt in the right direction?
Yes. However, there's one thing that needs to improve, is we need to try harder at getting these 5 stars who visit, and we've had 4 5-star recruits visit campus over the past year. We need to get these recruits to actually, commit, instead of putting us in our top 3 or top 5 or top 10, whatever they do nowadays. That needs to happen. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's because we're not getting in line with the NIL deal. Pitt's not in a position to throw out $5 million, $3 million, $2 million for NIL deals. Kids can get $50,000, $100,000 NIL deals, and most of the players on the team make more money than I do. So and I'm not going to toot my own horn about how much I make. It's more than $75,000 a year. I'll say that. But we can't. We are not in a position, first of all, to compete with the NIL. We need to win more often to start getting bigger players that actually start believing in a philosophy. So do I think, to answer your question, do I think he is the right coach to lead Pitt in the right direction? Yes. Half of that, though, is because I don't think anybody else would take the job if he leaves. Or at least not somebody who is, how should I say this, well known. And no, for if you guys are going to ask, if Pat Narduzzi stepped down today and somebody offered Coach Prime, I would be completely against it. No, I do not want him anywhere near this campus. I've had that question like 6 times in the past week. But yeah, I do think he is the best coach for our future as of right now.
Right. What are the strengths and weaknesses for Pitt that everyone needs to look out for when watching the Sun Bowl against UCLA on CBS?
I'm glad you asked me that question because that brings us to the opt-outs. Right. And I have to talk about the opt-outs first. So we will be without starting defensive end Deslin Alexander, starting safety Brandon Hill, starting defensive end John Morgan, starting linebacker Servassier Dennis, and starting defensive tackle Kalijah Cansey. Most of those players declared for the draft with John Morgan transferring to Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say watch out for UCLA to run the shit out of the ball.
Yeah.
Excuse my language, but that's basically, in my opinion, what's going to happen. Because the one good thing is we still have all our corners. All right. And the one good thing that I'm actually glad is we have most of our offensive linemen who have declared for the draft playing in the Sun Bowl. That's good. To me, that's a good thing. So at least on the offensive side of the ball, because if I'm not mistaken, I haven't heard anything from Jared Wayne's side, or at least I may have missed it. As far as I know, and Will, you can correct me if I'm wrong, he is playing in the Sun Bowl. I haven't heard anything about him opting out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what's your take on Kadon Slovis leaving Pitt for BYU? I take that as a. Ooh.
I mean, I think I've already stated how I feel about Kedon Slovis. I mean, actually, there's a couple of things I forgot to mention that most Pitt fans don't even talk about. He wasn't liked at all on campus, not just from the students, but from the players. He wasn't a team player. He didn't show up to any meetings unless it was required. And all position groups have their own personal meetings. They all do, where they all meet on their own time outside of what the NCAA says they can for organized team activities. They all do. Quarterbacks go out to eat together. Running backs go out to eat together. Linemen go out to eat together. All position groups hang out with each other. And he didn't want to do that. That wasn't him. And he also complained about the cold.
Ooh, what you complain again? Say one more time.
It was too cold.
Yeah. Ooh.
He complained about the cold, which doesn't make sense because he's transferring to BYU, which is even 10 times colder than us.
What do you think about Phil Dracovic coming in?
Please, for the love of God, do not suck.
How good is your offensive line going to be next year?
Probably better, to be honest, because there's actually 2 offensive linemen that can return that still have 1 more year of eligibility left. I actually thought they all were out, but they're not. Jake Cradle, who necessarily isn't a starter, but he fills in whenever somebody gets injured. So most of the season last year, he was a starter for either center or guard. I do believe he has 1 year of eligibility left. Who else does? Matt Gonzalez, I think he has another year of eligibility left. But because of the injuries at offensive line, a lot of the backups were actual starters for most of the year. And some even third string. We'll talk about Bronson Taylor, number 78, probably the biggest offensive tackle we have at 6'6", 330. He started most of the year, and he's pretty damn good. To be honest, he should have been starting ever since he walked through this door. But because Pat Narduzzi and the coaches are stubborn, and they do the seniority type thing, because if you're a senior, you own you start automatically. It doesn't matter. You start unless you get injured, you're starting. And I like that philosophy to an extent, but if your player's not doing well, you need to make a change, which is what Pat Narduzzi failed to do with Keaton Slovis. Some people say that's, he was the undisputed best quarterback we had in the locker room. I call that BS. I think our walk-on quarterback was better than him, but that's besides the point. It's honestly, as far as our offensive line goes, I think it would get better. To be honest, I think it will be better next year than it was this year, because I think the backups honestly just have more athletic ability to make plays than our starters do.
Yeah, because he was at Notre Dame. He's a statue. He's a statue, but he can pick you apart more than any other.
Yeah, he's big. He's a big QB.
But he can pick you apart more than probably 99% of quarterbacks in the country. If you give him time, he will find the receivers.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, because he has size, and I actually know him because he's from Pittsburgh. I don't know him. I have met him before only because my nephew ended up going to his high school, Pine Richland, not playing football, but he knew Phil, and I ran into him a couple of times during basketball games and football games. But he definitely, for his size, being 6'5", 6'5.5", I think he's taller than 6'5", to be honest. For his height and his weight, which is around 230, he can run. Mm-hmm. Not many 6'5" quarterbacks can run. Most quarterbacks who are extremely mobile are probably going to be 6'3" at the most, just tall enough to see over the offensive lineman. But he can definitely run. He's a great pocket passer, in my opinion. However, where he struggles is long passes. And we have some pretty fast receivers. And he was bailed out a lot last year by Zay Flowers of Boston College. Because Zay Flowers, are you guys familiar with him?
Mm-hmm.
He's a pretty damn good receiver. Very good receiver. And in my opinion, from what I saw, the limited game film that I watched on Boston College, because I haven't done too much of a deep dive into Dracovic yet, which I will eventually do. The one thing that he did struggle with is standing there and throwing long passes. But if he ran and he had to chuck it, he was great. And that's going to probably be needed if our offensive line doesn't do as well as I expect them to do. One other good thing is, though, besides the long passes, he is accurate. Very accurate. But he does have some injury issues. And my other concern, my biggest concern is, should we trust a quarterback who is now on his third school?
That's a good question.
How do you think Pitt can defend against Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the UCLA quarterback?
I think we learned our lesson from the Louisville game, so I think pretty well. Because Malik Cunningham and also Jeff Sims and Drake May, so those 3 games, those are 3 very, very mobile quarterbacks, and we let them run all over us. And after that, we didn't let no quarterback run all over us, even running back. We learned how to finally play a good run defense, which allowed us, if you guys didn't know, allowed us to retake the number 1 spot in the nation for sacks. Yeah. So Pitt is once again number 1 in sacks in all of college football. We have one more than, I believe it's Clemson. I think. Am I wrong?
That sounds right. I'm not totally sure.
Because Clemson had a good defense, believe it or not.
Yeah, they didn't show it against Notre Dame, but they do have a good defense.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys lost to Marshall, but that's besides. I was waiting to bring that up. I wanted to do that ever since I found out you were a Notre Dame fan, but I needed that perfect moment. How could you lose to Marshall?
Oh no, man! I think second year with Marcus Freeman will take that step. It was the learning experience.
And we definitely got to do another video or whatever you want to call it whenever we play Notre Dame.
Oh yeah,
Notre Dame play. It's at Acashire Stadium. Thank you, God. I think. Did you have a look at the schedule for next year yet?
Yeah, I know we got Clemson away, Ohio State home, USC home.
Because we play you guys for the next 10 years, every year.
Yeah.
Y'all got, and that little Cincinnati game gets easier because they got Scott Satterfield as head coach.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna love that because we finally renewed what should have been rivalry between Pitt and Cincinnati, because we've only played Cincinnati 6 or 7 times in history.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, that 09 one was a classic.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna sneeze. I think I'm gonna sneeze. Boo. Yeah, that's what you do whenever you're trying not to sneeze. You scare the crap out of yourself. We, believe it or not, open up the season, and this what irritates me, against Wofford. Who's Wofford? I've literally never heard of Wofford until 2 weeks ago.
I think some small school in the South.
Yeah, they're in
South Carolina. I bet you it's in South Carolina. Sounds like a school that would be in South Carolina.
Yes, it is.
It is?
In South Carolina.
Oh, well, that was a lucky guess.
But hey,
But
you
it's
got
like
go.
Wake Forest. I didn't know where Wake Forest was. I honestly thought Wake Forest was in Maine or Montana or Idaho or one of those states where mostly everything is surrounded by wildlife, or even in Colorado. Didn't know it was in North Carolina.
Oh.
Man. But what were you talking about?
Yeah. So how do you think? So you are concerned about stopping Zach Charbonnet, the running back, in the Sun Bowl?
Honestly, even with us losing two defensive ends and a D tackle and a linebacker, what a lot of people don't realize is the amount of depth we have across the defensive line board. Now, the only thing that does concern me, honestly, is the linebacker position, because that's where we're most vulnerable. But to be honest, I don't think the run game will be how UCLA beats us. I think they're going to have no choice but to beat us through the air. Because if there's one thing Pitt is good at doing and that's developing defensive linemen. Aaron Donald. Let's see. What's that big guy's name? Oh, man, he was huge. Tyreek Jarrett. Played for us a few years ago. Jabal Sheard. Does that name ring a bell?
Mm.
He used to play for the Colts.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, he still may be in the NFL. We're talking about Jalen Twyman, who plays for he used to play for Minnesota, but I don't know where he is at now. Patrick Jones. The list can go on and on and on of defensive linemen who were or still are in the NFL that came out of Pitt. So that doesn't concern me as much as what they're going to do to us through the air. Now, that doesn't go without saying that UCLA now does have an opt-out, and that's a wide receiver, Casimir Allen, has opted out of the Sun Bowl, which is their leading receiver.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's new news.
That's going.
You guys didn't know that?
Not. I guess this website that I'm using is not updated.
Well, the one thing that I realized is, especially when it comes to sports and college football or just anything on the internet, everybody's going to say something different. And a lot of people honestly may not actually know that this player opted out or that player opted out or whatever the case may be. So I actually had to do some digging, and I had to ask, and I won't name names, but I had to ask somebody that is close to UCLA if you guys have any opt-outs, and that's how I found out.
So, how do you think Pitt? Who's going to start? Nick Patty or Nate Yardell? Who will start?
If it was up to me, out of sheer respect, it would be Nick Patty, because I think it would be highly disrespectful to him and everything he has done for Pitt, being a cheerleader, because that's what he was, a cheerleading quarterback, and he was needed when he was needed. And usually when he was needed, he did pretty well. He's only thrown 3 career interceptions. He's not someone who throws interceptions. He does have his weaknesses, and he has completed, actually, what did it say? 79% of his passes at Pitt. So I would start Nick Patty. Now, if you are talking about pure skill, it would be Nate Yarnell. Because you guys seen that Western Michigan game from earlier in the year when Keaton Slovis was injured and so was Nick Patty. Pat Narduzzi wasn't sure who he was going to start, whether it be Dartmouth quarterback transfer Derek Kyler, which I would have been okay with to an extent. But, I mean, he's only 5'11", 198 pounds.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure how well he would have done being if he couldn't see over the offensive lineman. We would have had to have played Wildcat that whole entire game, which has worked for us actually. But I would choose Nate Yarnell if you're going by technical skill, because I just think being 6'6", Nate Yarnell, he can see stuff that Nick Patty can't. And his delivery, yes, it's slow, but it's slow enough to make you think to where, oh, wait, it's going slow. Then it looks like it's speeding up. Then the ball's going slow. Then it looks like he's speeding up. And then before you know it, the receiver already has it.
Mhm.
That's how good Nate Yarnell is. But he's injury prone.
Mhm.
That's his biggest problem. He's only 205 pounds.
Mhm.
So, I mean, against a team like UCLA, you may be signing Nate Yarnell's career-ending death wish.
Yeah. How many more? Do you think that if you would have had Jordan Addison, you would have won any more games than you did this season?
We would have won the ACC.
Mm.
Straight up, we would have won the ACC. As bad as Keaton Slovis is, Jordan Addison would have still been our number one receiver. Still would have been. It's good as Jared Wayne is, and Jared Wayne to me has some physical attributes that Jordan Addison just does not have. I mean, first of all, Jared Wayne's 6'4", 210 pounds. And he can move. He isn't the fastest guy on the field, but he isn't the easiest guy to bring down. Jordan Addison, believe it or not, is extremely easy to take down. He's just quick. If you don't time up the tackle right with Jordan Addison, you're not going to catch him. And the one good thing about Jordan Addison is he is just as good at catching the ball as Jared Wayne. So he still would have been our number one receiver. I don't know why he transferred outside of obvious tampering, because he still would have been great. But I still think we would have won the ACC also if we did not experience the amount of injuries we have, because I honestly don't care what anybody says. When you have as many injuries as we have had, and when I mean as many, every single starter except one has missed playing time, except one. And that was Marcus Minor, who is playing in the Sun Bowl.
How great was it just to crap on Miami at the end of the year? Just like take it to them like
that. That was the greatest thing my eyes have ever seen as a Pitt fan, besides 2016 when we beat Clemson. I don't care how bad Miami is playing. They clearly have much more talent than we do. Clearly have much more talent than we do. But what they clearly cannot do is figure out a way to use said talent. And that allowed us to absolutely humiliate, and I mean humiliate, Miami. You're talking about with one of the worst quarterbacks that we have had in Pitt history. I mean, somebody who's almost as bad as the previous USC quarterback that we had. I don't know if you guys remember that, Max Brown.
it wasn't good.
Guess who Max Brown got benched for, though? Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
That's gonna be big.
I was trying to remember which quarterback. Like, was it Peterman or was it Pickett? I was between those two. I can remember.
It went from Peterman to Brown, then to Pickett.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, Kenny Pickett has had 3 offensive coordinators at his time in Pitt. His original OC was Matt Canada. Then it became Sean Watson, who is the head coach of somewhere now. And then it was Mark Whipple.
What's funny is his first offensive coordinator's now an OC at Steelers. Pretty funny, huh?
It is. It's actually it's deja vu on how it comes back around, because there's a good chance that Addison might get drafted by the Steelers. Honestly, I think the Steelers, to be honest, would be a moron if they didn't take Jordan Addison. Or even, honestly, even Izzy Abanikanda. I think he would fit very well in the running back room for the Steelers than everyone else. But the Steelers do have 2 good running backs. Wow, people are driving motorcycles in the middle of winter. Izzy Abanikanda and Jordan Addison should honestly be the 2 players the Steelers go after. I'm not a Steelers fan. I hate the Steelers, as I said before. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. I want the Steelers to do well, because when you have a kid like Kenny Pickett on the team, who is a god like he is in the city, you cheer for him no matter where he goes. Unless he went to Chicago, then I would never, ever in my life cheer for that man. I'd instantly hate him. And Minnesota and Detroit. Who else am I missing in the NFC North? Oh yeah,
that's everyone.
That's everyone.
Yeah, that's everyone. But I watch more college football than NFL nowadays. Way more.
So, yeah. But yeah, it's that the ACC this year, where I saw where Pitt, they've just been like, they've had it up and down this year. What were the highs and lows of 2022? Like the backyard brawl was one of the highs. I know that.
Oh yeah. Well, let's start off with the bad stuff first. The lows. The lows to me is the lack of team play, in my personal opinion. I do think there was a slight culture problem this year in the locker room with having to use so many transfers, because I don't think people realize how many transfers we had on both offense and defense. Offense, we had 3 transfers: Slovis, Bub Means, and Kanota Mumfield. Also 4, actually 5, now that I think of it. Anthony Sume, running back from Georgia. Sebo Flemister, running back from Notre Dame. Slovis, Mumfield, and Means. They were all starters or people who contributed a lot on the offensive side of the ball. And as defense goes, hate to bring it to you again, Will, Notre Dame linebacker transfer Shane Simon, who I have never seen Notre Dame underutilize a player that damn good. How the hell do you guys not use Shane Simon? Was it because he was injury prone, or it's just because you guys have that much depth at linebacker?
Honestly, linebacker was one of the worst parts of the Irish this year, so we probably could have used Shane Simon a bit.
Oh, okay. That would have made me feel confident that we probably could have beat Notre Dame if we played them. Marshall did. But anyway, yeah. But look, I hate Marshall. I do. Only because their fans are picking fights with us now because West Virginia doesn't care about them anymore. Also Tyler Wiltz, linebacker from Missouri State. Not a big guy, 6'2", 6'3", about 215 pounds. Now, Pitt is a defense that doesn't use Ray Lewis-like linebackers or Lamar Woodley-like linebackers. You guys know who Lamar Woodley is? Okay. A lot of people don't know who that is, so if I think you guys may not know who he is, I'll ask you so you can understand where my point is going. We don't have those big linebackers like that. That's not the style of defense we play. We need linebackers that are anywhere from 210 to 240 pounds that can still fly around and cover, because that's what our defense, that's the style of defense we play. Our linebackers have to cover. I do think that actually is a problem with our defense, because what that does is it leaves the middle wide open. And if Dorian Thompson is able to see over his offensive line, because he's not a big quarterback height-wise at all. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, he's only like maybe a half inch taller than Malik Cunningham. So if he's able to get the reads he's supposed to, and the linemen are able to push us out of the way, he's going to have a field day all game long in the middle of our secondary.
There we go. That's going to be fun.
So how do you think the game's going to go down?
Yeah, what's your prediction for it?
Not a good one.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. You're gonna get probably the biggest fight out of Pitt you've seen all year. However, I think because of the fact that we have to fight that much is gonna eventually wear us down. And I predict UCLA to win the game. But if I had to pick a score, which most people do ask me if what my score prediction would be, I would pick a 38 to 24 win for UCLA.
Wow.
One more question. I forgot. Do you think Frank Cignetti did a pretty good job, but did you miss Whipple at all, Mark Whipple? I mean, he did fail at Nebraska a bit. But
yeah, I don't. Hey, look, people say Mark Whipple made Kenny Pickett. No, the hell he didn't. Kenny Pickett made Mark Whipple look good. Okay? So did Jordan Addison. All right? And so did our running backs, too. They made Mark Whipple look good, because Mark Whipple, as you guys know, people claim that we actually passed the ball, or not passed the ball. People actually claim that we ran the ball just as much as we did passing with Mark Whipple. I don't know what people were looking at. That wasn't even close to being true. All right. It looks like that because 3 of our running backs in 2021 had 500 yards or more rushing. All right. And that's pretty good when you have 3 running backs with 500 yards or more rushing, which means there's a problem with your run game, though. If those 3 running backs, to me, in my opinion, you need to have one solid running back like we had with Izzy Abanikanda this year. And everybody else needs to do their part. But when you have 3 running backs who have to carry the load like that, then there might be a problem with, your run game. And there was a problem with our run game. We didn't run block very well in 2021 or 2020 or 2019. The last time we had a great run game was 2018 when we had Sean Watson as the offensive coordinator, where we had 2 1,000-yard rushers in the season.
Mm-hmm.
2, which is extremely difficult to do.
Yeah.
But no, I do not think Mark Whipple is better, nor do I miss him. And the evidence at Nebraska proves that I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like you said, Kenny Pickett made Mark Whipple look good.
Oh, yeah. And not a lot of people would agree with me on that. And I don't get why, because he had Kenny Pickett in 2020 and Jordan Addison. Where was our ACC championship then?
Mm-hmm.
Or matter of fact, actually, the last time Pitt made the ACC championship before 2021, guess who we had? Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison. And we got our butts kicked. I mean, Kenny Pickett threw for 8 yards total in that game. 8. Because of either penalties or interceptions or whatever the case may be. I'm glad he's gone. Do I think he is stubborn, Frank Cignetti? Yes. I do think he is stubborn. Do I think his play calling is predictable to an extent? But you have to realize it's the only thing that worked.
Mm-hmm.
What else were we supposed to do? So, I mean, I think Frank Cignetti definitely is a upgrade over Whipple, but if he wants to bring this team out of mediocrity, and I'll say out of mediocrity because I don't want to necessarily say contending for the ACC every year, because with the way things are going now and the way the schedules are going to be next year, it's going to make it 10 times more difficult for us to get into the ACC championship. So I personally love him. Honestly, he wasn't my first choice, but I think he, for right now, and I'll say that with a grain of salt, for right now, is the right choice.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So before we go, tell the audience where they can find you, where if they want to talk about Pittsburgh football with you.
Yeah, you guys can find me on YouTube, TALK-IS-PITT. Trying to upload more content more often, but due to my work schedule and the fact that I work 12 to 14-hour days, it's almost impossible for me to upload content as much. But because of work slowing down, I have a lot more time, which is why I'm able to get on here. You can also find me on Twitter at the same handle, TALK-IS-PITT, and also on Instagram for TALK-IS-PITT.
All right.
All right.
Although I don't recommend you go on Instagram because you'll wait at least a month before I respond to you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, man, and enjoy the rest of your holiday season.
All right. Thank you guys for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, a lot of fun.